take a cement fix, be a standing cinema. Dress my friends up just for show, see them as they really are. Put a peephole in my brain, tune your pens to have a go. I'd like to be a gallery, put you all inside my show. Andy Warhol looks a scream, hang him on my wall. Andy Warhol, silver screen. Hello, it's David Gillespie here. Welcome to Globetrotting with Gillespie. And this time, I'm in the Cable Street Studios. This is a pretty wild place, I must say, and I've come to visit a fantastic artist. Look what he has just given me, the Bowie mask. We're going to talk about that in a little while. I'd like you to meet Mark Wardel.
Hello. Hi, welcome to my studio.
Yeah, I love your studio, especially as the number is, I've got to say it, the magic 108,
Absolutely.
Your studio here. How long have you been in this place?
I've been in here since 2013. I got this studio really indirectly because of the Bowie masks. Because I got an order from the V&A to make 300 of them, and I had to find a studio because I couldn't make them at home. And I just pestered this place.
I see you've got, just hold that up for people to see. This is, was this the original? No, this wasn't the original.
No, this is a plaster cast, but they derive from an original 1974 cast that Bowie had made in Los Angeles.
Well, I know that you're mad about Bowie, but I want to go back in your history. How did you get into this madness of art, actually? I mean, where did you start? Where did you hail from as well?
Okay, well, I originally came from a small town in the north of England, a seaside town called New Brighton, which was opposite Liverpool on the other side of the Mersey. And all my relatives had businesses in the local fairground, which was a big fairground called the Tower, and where the Beatles played about 30 times before they made it big. So as a kid in the 60s, I was brought up in this fairground environment.
With great sign writing and
great
colours.
Sign writing, brilliant music,
yes.
You know, because at night, because I lived with my aunt and uncle because my mum had died when I was 8. And at night in the summer, their house backed onto basically this fairground.
Ooh.
And at summer night, lying in bed, you could hear the music coming in from the PA in the fairground. You know, with that, the noise of the crowds and all the rides and everything going on. So that's kind of, it was very that'll be the day. And then when I was a teenager, all my summer holidays were spent working on the pier or in amusement arcades.
You weren't riding the rides, because that's where men showed off. They used to do those things that whiz round, and they stood without hanging on to anything.
The waltzer boys, they were always the sexiest guys.
And they got the girls and the boys.
Well, I don't know about that, they never, you know, but they definitely, they got the girls. And they used to spin them around really extra quick and make them scream and everything. So it was like a that'll be the day sort of existence, you know. It was really good. All of that's gone, of course. It's all basically been demolished and knocked down years ago, and it's still a beautiful place, but it's just it's kind of residential.
Well, fairgrounds don't seem to have the same pull. I mean, there used to be one permanently in Battersea Park when I was younger, and you went down there late at night for a good time, and you'd have a whiz round on a ride.
It's a brilliant atmosphere, isn't it? You know, and as you say, all the artwork and everything, because back then, of course, it was all hand painted.
Yes,
sign writing and hand painting and everything. It was really good. So that was exciting being a kid.
But when did you come to London? How old were you?
Well, I'd always, before my mum died, she was divorced and she was like a PR lady, so she worked for different companies. So we travelled around. I first went to school in Edinburgh, then Manchester, then back to New Brighton, and all over the place. And then when my mum died, I was sent off to live somewhere else for a while. So I changed schools 10 times.
Right.
So I was never any good at school except for art, and I used to, because I didn't have any friends really, because I was never in school.
Yeah, you're moving.
So I was quite a solitary kid, so I used to just draw all the time. And eventually I went to art school because I didn't really get any qualifications or anything. So, you know, you went to art school, didn't you, to
time,
basically just mess about, you know. And while I was there, it sort of crystallised on me that, you know, I wanted to be an artist, and you weren't encouraged. In the north of England, back in the early 70s, mid-70s, you weren't encouraged to be an artist.
It's not a proper job.
No, it wasn't. You know, you never make any money, you know, and it was, the environment there was very, everyone got married and had kids and got a job in the factory or whatever. And I wanted to be where it was happening, and I was mad on Bowie, who I discovered in '72 when I was.
What was well, if we're on Bowie for a second, we'll get back to him. What was the first thing that kind of hooked you? Because I know a lot of people like Mark Armand or Holly Johnson, they've all said the moment they saw Bowie and Ronno, not exactly kissing, but arms round each other, or, you know, one was down on his knees in front of the other, that changed the life and opened the doors to lots of imagination. Well, that was on, I think, Top of the Pops.
Top of the Pops. Well, actually, it was before Top of the Pops. It had been seen on a programme called Lift Off with Aisha.
Oh, yeah, oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
yes.
and I saw that, but I already knew about Bowie, and I was working on the pier, and it was summer 1972. And before we got busy, I went over to the tea stall to get a cup of tea for me and my cousin, who was working in the next stall. And there were two really sexy teddy boys that were working probably on the wall side, that were waiting for their coffee. And one of them was telling his mate about this outrageous concert he'd just been to at the Liverpool Stadium, where the singer was half man, half woman, and wore makeup and spacesuits on stage. So my antenna would suddenly
intrigued.
going like that, and so I eavesdropped long enough to hear the name that it was David Bowie. And I'd heard Starman on the radio, but I didn't know anything about the singer. So that lunchtime, I went out to the local newsagent and bought, I think, things like Jackie magazine and stuff like that, because they all had loads of pin-ups of David Bowie in them, and I just thought, wow, this is the most incredible person I've ever seen. This cool sort of alien rock star. It was the clothes, the hair, everything. And of course he said he was gay. And up until then there'd been no, I mean he wasn't, Ziggy Stardust was gay, Bowie was bisexual or whatever it was. But up till then there'd been no gay role models that you thought you wanted to be like. You know, you didn't want to be like John Inman or Larry Grayson or whatever. Or Liberace. And, you know, realising you were gay back in the early 70s in a northern town was not really good news. So when Bowie came along and said he was gay, I thought, wow, I can really buy into this. Yeah. And I just fell for the whole thing. Yeah. But, you know, I got the Ziggy Stardust haircut, and people started, because back then I looked a bit like him, and people started saying, oh, you look like David Bowie. So the tough lads at school that always wanted to beat you up because they thought you were a weirdo, suddenly they thought you were quite cool. So it was kind of a life-changing thing, you know, and a massive influence. I mean, I've spoken to Boy George a lot about this over the years, and we both say that Bowie, we went to the school of Bowie because neither of us learned anything at school. And we learned I heard about you from Bowie. I heard about the Velvet Underground, Iggy Pop, Kerouac, Burroughs, Lindsay Kemp, film directors. These were the things we wanted to know about. You know, I didn't want to hear about tin mining in Nova Scotia or anything.
No, I quite agree.
The
school of Bowie was far more interesting.
The school of Bowie was far more interesting. Yeah. And of course, his whole ethos was, you can reinvent yourself and you can be what you want, and you don't have to fit in with what society tells you you're going to be. And I completely went for it. And I thought, right, that's it, I'm going to go to London, because there were no opportunities. It's not like now, you can do anything anywhere with computers. Back then, you know, you just couldn't do anything, and Liverpool was very run down, there was nothing happening.
So how old were you when you hit the big smoke here?
What was I think 19, 20?
Blonde and gorgeous?
Well, I became blonde after I arrived here, if you know what I mean. But it was an amazing time to hit London, because if you were young, reasonably good looking, and were doing something artistic, you could walk into any situation.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long before I was living with a millionaire who owned a nightclub, and I was partying with Grace Jones, Liz Taylor, and David Bowie, you know, and people like that. And I just thought it was amazing how it happened, but I just fell into the kind of area that I'd always thought I wanted to be in.
The 70s were great, actually.
It was a
We
fantastic...
had a fabulous... I had a good time in the 60s, but the 70s were particularly great. And if you weren't there, I'm sorry for everyone that missed it.
It was a really fantastic decade.
Yeah.
It really was. I loved all of it, from the glam rock music at the beginning, then to the kind of electronic, new romantic stuff, punk. I even quite liked a lot of the punk stuff and all that. So pop culturally, it was a great decade as well.
Yeah.
But there were opportunities. I walked into a job in a day in London. I thought, I came here. My first day in London was the David Bowie concert at Earl's Court in 1978.
Okay.
And I was coming with a guy called Dave Balfe, who went on to manage Blur and be in The Teardrop Explodes. We were coming together to see this concert, but he was on some acid trip and didn't make the coach. So I had to come alone to London, and I was shitting myself. I thought, oh my God. But I got here and went to the Bowie concert and met all these... The audience back then was exciting as Bowie himself. And I just thought, this is fantastic. I'm really going to come and live in London. And I brought my portfolio, walked around a couple of design studios in Soho, and the third one said, when can you start?
Oh, fantastic.
And so I walked into a job. I mean, now you wouldn't even...
You wouldn't get past the door.
No, you wouldn't get past the door.
But you had to then find somewhere to live.
Yeah.
I mean, and get into the London scene. And I know you told me you had something to do with a club with Steve Strange and...
That was slightly, that was kind of about a few months later. So I just, I was living in a bedsit with these, owned by, it was a mansion block in West Hampstead, owned by this very old Greek lady and her slightly nutty daughter. They were a bit mad. So I lived there for a while, and then I sort of sofa surfed around a bit. And I slept in the office for a little bit. At one point I didn't have anywhere to live. I slept in the office, which in Soho had been the painting studio of Canaletto.
Oh, right.
So it was an attic, beautiful old attic studio. It was great. I really liked
I hope
working
it's still there. I mean, they keep tearing down bits of Soho. It so upsets me. Areas like Tin Pan Alley totally changed. I don't know where I was. I don't know.
How are they allowed to do it? It's pop
money.
culture vandalism.
It is. It's money talk. So, but when did you start kind of making your living out of, like, what have we got behind us? Bowie stuff. I mean.
Well, I don't just do Bowie stuff. I discovered the Blitz and Boy George and Steve Strange and those sort of people. And when I walked into that environment, I sort of thought, wow, these people look incredible, you know. And of course, they were all Bowie fans. They'd been fans of Bowie as long as I had.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is my subject, you know, because my art is about people who've invented self-created personas, people who have accentuated their appearance and are living out a kind of fantasy life, whether it's in the music world or the club world or the gay world. That's where I get my inspiration from. Or obviously...
and the music as well.
And the music, of course. I've always been... My work has always sprung from a music and clubbing background. You know, it's... the big bang of it was the Bowie thing that led on to all this other stuff. So I started painting people like George and Steve Strange.
Who's that behind us, by the way?
This is kind of an invented figure, and this is a recreation. I worked for, I did all the artwork for a massive big gay club back in the 90s.
Called?
Trade. It was the first legal 24-hour club. We didn't open till 3 in the morning, and we went on till 3 Sunday afternoon, and it was the biggest drugs den you can imagine.
Sleep didn't probably...
Sleep, no one slept any weekend.
Ow.
And I did all the decor and painted up these big fluorescent glow-in-the-dark banners to decorate the club, because it had been a sort of Clerkenwell wine bar. So to make it look funky, I did all the artwork, and it led on to me doing artworks for lots of other gay clubs worldwide, because this club became a massive global brand. It kind of revolutionised the gay clubbing thing.
And you've got a great style, very unique. Other people aren't doing that. That's what I like. Who are those three up the top there?
That's me in the middle.
Right.
This is from 1980 or 81 or something. Based on what I'm doing, I'm revisiting a lot of my old photographs from back in that era and painting them up as paintings.
Yeah.
So that's me and two friends of mine, and we were all dressed as motorbike rockers because we had a friend who was he was Sotheby's Russian art expert by day and a gay motorbike rocker by night, and he had a mansion in Notting Hill Gate full of Russian icons and everything. So we used to raid his cupboards and go out get tarted up in a load of bikes.
Who are these two?
Well, this is another guy. This is a guy from New York called Rocky, who was a hairdresser who sadly died of that big disease with a little name very, very early, I think in the early 80s. And another friend of mine, Vivian, who was, she was kind of involved with the Jaggers. She has a child by Mick Jagger's brother. And so Rocky, Chris, so she's got a son button, kicking the bucket.
Don't kick Bowie's mask. And down the bottom is...
Well, that's Bowie and
who's that?
Iggy Pop.
Oh, that's Iggy. God, he looks a bit different there.
Well, I mean, it wasn't actually Iggy in the actual photograph that I based it on. What I like to do is switch things around. I don't think there's any point in just completely copying a photo.
Well, and I'm looking at over there, because I'm looking at you with Hazel O'Connor, which is lovely Hazel, and up on the wall there, you did my album cover, which is great. It's fabulous. This is how we met.
Yeah.
I was suggested by my mate Tris Penner, who said,
I know.
You've got to go to Mark.
I know. And I was thrilled when he said, David Gillespie wants you to do her album cover. I thought, wow, how fantastic. Because I've known about you and read, because I was obsessed with the Main Man thing. Back from the 70s onwards.
It was an incredible company. Nobody realised. I mean, Bowie never talked about it after he left Main Man, which I think is a shame, because people don't realise how De Vries, who's the boss of the company, absolutely made Bowie to the level that he became. He wouldn't have done it if he hadn't got talent. It wouldn't have worked actually. But it was incredible. There was no other company quite like it actually at the time.
Absolutely, I don't think since either.
No, and everyone that worked, they all had come from the Warhol factory.
And he was kind of running it a bit like the MGM studios, wasn't he? Grooming people to be stars and all that sort of thing. Which was a fabulous idea. Because it was a very glamorous era, wasn't it?
It was. Well, we went out, Angie Bowie then used to go out and buy 10 pairs of Manolo Blahnik suede heel shoes for me in every different and then every different colour, and then she would go shopping, because she did shop for Britain actually, and she'd buy 20 pairs of Janet Rieger silk French knickers, in different colours. But she bought all of Bowie's stuff too. People don't realise how she and De Vries were really instrumental.
Yeah, the little suits that he wore with the padded shoulders.
Oh, Freddie Boretti, I think.
Well, Freddie Boretti copied the ones, but Angie bought the original from City Light Studio from Tommy Roberts. The brown one that he wears on pin-ups was a City Lights, and apparently Tommy said that Angie bought about 5 of them, and Bowie loved them. And then Freddie copied the design of the jacket for the Diamond Dogs tour.
Angie was a bulk buyer. Yeah. If you found something that you liked, or she liked for you, she bought the lot. And very often she bought all his shoes and his trousers. They were the same size.
Tiny.
So that helped, that they could wear each other's clothes. And at one point her hair was much longer than his. It was, then the spiky design, etc.
I remember that newspaper cutting, Who's the Mummy or something. Angie had very short hair. Bowie had long hair and this big Oxford bags about that wide, and they were pushing Zoe in the pushchair.
Well, I knew him when he was Zoe. I've never met him as Duncan.
No, that's a whole shame, isn't it?
Yeah. But so you've got your fabulous place in the studio. I think it's great. Well, there, of course, Ava Cherry.
Cherry.
I was with last year, was it? There was some Bowie thing.
Yeah,
in
she does a
Dublin.
lot of these Bowie things. Yeah, she was. I spoke to her a lot over the last couple of years. She kind of drove me nuts actually. She kept asking me to design record covers and stuff. None of them ever led to anything, but she literally phoned twice a week, you know. And she told me some great stories and everything.
Well, you know, mine did lead to something, because mine was the cover that you did for me. It was my
Absolutely, yeah.
73rd album. And have you got any plans for the future, or are you just carrying on here in more?
I've spent the last couple of years writing a book with an American writer, a very good American writer called Susan Compo, who wrote a book about the David Bowie film The Man Who Fell to Earth, and she researched how it came to be made and the production and everything. And
Nick Rogue, the director.
Nick Rogue,
yes,
exactly.
who
Yeah.
I did a film with.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
that's
I did,
right.
what did I do? Bad Timing.
Bad Timing. Wow.
Sort of weird film. Anyway, yes, sorry. Don't
Yeah, no. And so Susan, for some reason, asked me to contribute about the masks to her book, because it concerns masks of the alien and all of that. And we kind of carried on communicating, and she was trying to think of another project. And I said, look, Bowie only got The Man Who Fell to Earth because Nick Rogue was shown Cracked Actor. I've been obsessed with Cracked Actor, the documentary, since '75.
Yeah.
Since I saw it. I mean, I just fell in love with that whole period. I said, why don't we write a book about Cracked Actor? And, because it's kind of the prequel to The Man Who Fell to Earth. Susan was into the idea, and Dylan Jones Dylan Jones from GQ, very kindly put me in touch with Alan Yentop, who made the film.
Yeah, they were all filming when I was there.
They were filming when you were in
Dogs.
Los Angeles,
Yes.
yeah, at the amphitheatre.
Very few people have saw Diamond Dogs, because
I
it
know,
never came here. So
which
when
is
is the book ready? Because I'm
September the 2nd it's due for publication.
yippee! I tell you, so many people are going to want it. You know,
It's out for pre-order, and it's apparently going really well. And the plan is, the reason there's a lot of Bowie artwork here at the moment is the plan is to combine a book launch with an exhibition of the artworks, because there's a lot of my artworks,
yeah.
and there's a lot of unpublished live photos from this amazing photographer who was only 16 in '74.
Who's that?
He's called David Stratford, and he got a camera for his 16th birthday, and he sneaked it into the concerts. And not just Bowie, but the Rolling Stones, Dylan. So he's got this incredible archive.
Is he still alive?
He's still alive, and he's never done anything with these pictures.
Wow.
So I think we've got 14 or 15 of those in the book, which is really exciting,
Well,
because they've never been seen.
I'm really looking forward to the book coming out. You've got to let me know when it is.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully you'll come to.
I will
to
indeed.
Yeah,
And
maybe do a number. Maybe do a
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol. That would be perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it.
Fantastic.
Well, I'm really thankful that you're talking to me today, Mark, because
I'm
so many
delighted.
Bowie fans anyway, but I'm a massive fan of your work, because of course where I'm sitting, I can see another picture of Bowie over there, and
There's plenty of Bowie around.
yeah, well, I mean, hey, why not? He was amazing.
He's an amazing subject.
Yes.
Got an incredible face. You know.
And you seem to kind of capture the icon side of him, which is great.
Thank you. Well, just quickly about my Bowie. What I try to do with my Bowie artworks is not focus on the well-known pictures.
Yeah.
I'll take, like in this one, a very small gossip column picture.
With tugging on a cigarette,
Yeah,
as he always
and as you can
smokes.
see, it's very unclear, because it's
Yeah.
like it was about an inch high.
Yeah.
And the thrill for me is taking something like that and making it into something a bit grander and a bit like a piece of art. So
And you've absolutely captured it. You've absolutely captured his look.
thank you.
You're so
Thank
good
you.
at that.
I've had a lot of practice.
Well, holy shit is all I can say is hot diggity dog, you are so good.
Fantastic.
Thank
and
you, Mark.
I'm a massive fan of you, and have
Well,
been since the 70s.
Well, I want to thank you for talking to me on Globetrotting, and I should be doing it through here. But I mean, I love your mask. Well, I love
Thank you.
all of the stuff you do. So
Thank
I
you.
want to say thank you to Mark Wardel for coming on Globetrotting, and I shall be there when the book comes out. Yippee!
My pleasure, and thank you. so much.
And he
Thanks.
walking and he tired, and he takes a little snooze. Tie him up when he's fast asleep. pleasant cruise. When he wakes up on the sea, he's sure to think of me and you. He'll think about paint and he'll think about glue. What a jolly boring thing to do. Andy Warhol looks a scream, hang him on my wall. Andy Warhol, silver screen, can't tell them apart at all. Walking and he tired, and he takes a little snooze. Tie him up when he's fast asleep, send him on a pleasant cruise. When he wakes up on the sea, he's sure to think of me and you. He'll think about paint and he'll think about glue. What a jolly boring thing to do. Andy Warhol looks a scream, hang him on my wall. Andy Warhol, silver screen, can't tell them apart at all.